This guy trip and fall right into this swarm of bugs. Thinking he's dead, they leave old green shirt guy to his doom. And that was their biggest mistake. They head back to their shipwrecked boat to look for supplies that they
I wouldn't have done that. Even though he's probably a big meanie, we still probably gonna need him for strength. We gotta work together as a team in this.
Hence Hana's fate as she realizes that she's going to die soon. However, not
unless she chop off her hand, like chop her arm off, that part that already infected, chop that off and keep it moving.
I do this. Subscribe to the channel.
You already know, man. We got a new one, man. This How to Beat Anime. Wait, How to Beat the Apocalypse in 7 Seed, right? Yeah, 7Seeds. This is How to Beat Anime. Y'all see the thumbnail. Y'all know what it is, man. We finna get to it. How y'all day been? Y'all been doing good? I've been doing so. So y'all already know. Link gonna be down in the description below. Like, come subscribe for do man. I'm a slogan. I'm the greatest. I gotta get to it.
If you suddenly woke up in a post-apocalyptic future, what would you do? The world as you know it has been destroyed, and everything left alive is out to kill you. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the apocalypse in 7 Seeds. This girl doesn't realize.
Wait, ain't this on Crunchyroll? Is this a new one? I don't know, man. I be lost. I be watching everything on Crunchyroll and this to be again.
That Japan is about to become an underwater death trap. Natsu here wakes up scared and confused as hell, just as this woman busts in and tells her that the ship they're on is sinking. Natsu doesn't know how she got here. She follows the woman outside to a life raft, but she's not the only one. Cold and scared to the bone. These survivors can't remember how or when they got here, but they suddenly spot a scary looking island in the distance, and they decide to make landfall, but they have no idea.
Boy, stop. Not me.
What horrifying monsters they're about to see. Reaching the island, they decide to all introduce themselves, starting with the nice guy Arashi, followed by Asai, who tries to get creepily close to Natsu in order to become friends, and this mysterious woman who says her name is Botan and declares herself as leader because she's the oldest, and orders the group to begin looking for fresh water and food. And shortly thereafter, she tells a scared little Natsu here that if she doesn't pull her weight, this island will kill her before she knows it. Elsewhere, this other survivor, Hana, here runs for her dear life as she gets chased by an army of carnivorous beetles. She finally manages to escape and catch her breath and get some water, when suddenly she turns around and sees a massive mutated praying mantis ready to feast on her flesh, and it tries to kill her. She prepares to die right here, but is suddenly saved by this ponytail guy, and the group quickly
With a bow and arrow, bro. That's a poison bow and arrow. That's a poison arrow, baby.
Works together to kill the rest of the monsters. Okay, this is nuts. We have seen too much crazy shit to make me think that we are just on a regular island. This creature—
Yeah, there could be more people in that island and more insects and creatures and stuff.
It looks like a
I never saw this
mantis that is literally more than double our size, which clearly means that not everything is as it seems. If we were to assume that this creature is similar and possibly within the same family tree as the mantis insect family, then we can assume that this thing—
and they need anything gotta be strong. I mean, y'all seen what that thing on Netflix? Baka, whatever they call, I forget.
Is similar in its characteristics and structure as them. And this means we're in trouble, because the praying mantis is more of a methodical killer than most people realize.
Yeah, them things strong, ain't it?
Predatory animals are normally divided into two categories based on how they catch their prey. The first ones are known as the pursuit predators, like cheetahs or robber flies, who chase down their prey. They're more flashy, and they're basically the famous superstars of the animal world. But then you have the second group, known as the sit-and-wait predators. These creatures usually have hunt patterns that are similar to a wind-up toy. They sit and perform the same action over and over. However, praying mantises are a different horrifying breed, because they can adapt to catch their prey by varying their strike speed and can calculate how fast they need to be in order to catch their prey. They can strike at a speed of 60 milliseconds. But here's the thing, folks. This creature is not like most other predators out there, because unlike those things, this bug has one written rule hard-etched into its DNA that I think we can use, and that is the fact that this creature only eats live prey. Meaning Hana here, as soon as she spotted this bug,
It was over.
in the corner of her eye should not have moved an inch, because all of her movement and being all higgly-piggly and moving around caused her to become more of a tasty snack in
Yeah, and they can calculate it.
the eyes of this horrifying monster. And this is in tune with how certain species of larvae survive when predatory birds like dunnocks accidentally drop them after grabbing them out of their sand pits. The moment the larva falls from the bird's grasp, it plays dead on the floor in order to make the bird think that it would be way too much of an effort to go back for it, and instead would rather get more food somewhere else. This type of resource management system ingrained in certain wildlife means that Hana should not have moved and played dead initially, which would then ideally not aggravate the praying mantis and keep things calm long enough for her friends to show up and save her, which, by the way, they were not that far behind to begin with. But regardless, Hana here was way too carefree about how she acted, and this is likely gonna cost her very soon. After killing the horde of monsters, the group heads back to their base. Just like Natsu and her survivors, Hana's group can't remember how they got here, only that it's been 2 weeks since they woke up, and now they're running out of supplies. Old green shirt guy here then declares himself as the leader through physical dominance, and then demands that they leave this island in search of help, and he isn't taking no for an answer. Later that night, the group then leaves by boat, but this island has other plans for them, and suddenly everyone here gets swept up in a storm, just as they arrive right back to where they started, on this horrifying island. And now there's a sea of eyes all looking at them. Scared and angry, old green shirt guy tries to grab this comatose little injured girl and use her as bait, but Hana protects her and makes this guy trip and fall right into this swarm of bugs. Thinking he's dead, they leave old green shirt guy to his doom, and that was their biggest mistake. They head back to their shipwrecked boat to look for supplies that they
I wouldn't have done that. Even though he's probably a big meanie, we still probably gonna need him for strength. We gotta work together as a team in this.
can use when suddenly they hear footsteps of someone approaching. It's old green shirt guy, and he's alive. And he just acts like everything is handy dandy and tells the group that he's found shelter and leads the group deep into the dark jungle. But Hana here can tell that something is terribly wrong. Meanwhile,
he got a muffin inside him.
Back at Camp Natsu, she thinks their leader Botan knows more than she's letting on. Everything that this lady has done has been way too calm and collected. She's been way too prepared and knows exactly what to do in every single situation.
Yeah, she ain't on it too. She sus.
They've been in. Natsu tells Arashi here that she thinks she could be one of the people that kidnapped them. He tells her to pack up her things, and the two suddenly leave the camp before anyone notices. And that was a big mistake. This island is out to kill them. And suddenly Arashi gets swiped up by a giant man-eating Vetus flytrap. Natsu tries to help by getting him a knife, but suddenly another giant plant traps her up too. Terrified for her life, Natsu thinks she's going to die. But all of a sudden, this mysterious stud glasses guy saves both of them, right as Botan and Longhair Guy run into them as well. Arashi asks what the hell is going on, and Botan and Glasses Guy finally tell them the horrifying truth. Okay, what? This is horrifying, because this not only means that everyone we once knew is likely dead, but also that all of our creature comforts are gone, and that means no Chick-fil-A, no Burger King, no PS5s. That sucks! But aside from all that, there is one way we
You gotta mention Xbox.
can get a rough idea of how long these guys have been in cryosleep, and that is by looking at the giant monsters all around them. Because if we've noticed, a lot of these creatures that have tried to kill us so far are 2 to 3 times our size, which means that the flora and fauna of the earth, all the bugs, even the large Venus flytrap that tried to kill us, that was fun, all of these things had enough time to change since the meteor destroyed Earth, and they all adapted to a new and ruthless climate. This is what likely caused a species-size shift in response to all of this due to the environmental factors and of course genetic drift, which is like natural selection, but a process more random in nature, which causes a new population to show up and be genetically different than the original population. Growing larger to cope in a more unforgiving environment is also an evolutionary theory that many believe and reason why many of the animals of the past, like the dinosaurs, were so much bigger than the animals of today. But for the world's species to grow to such sizes would take millions of years of adaptation according to the evolutionary theory. And according to that theory, they all happened after an extinction event, of which there have been 5 extinction events in total. And with the Earth just recently being livable again in terms of the Earth's history, could help explain why there are no insanely large creatures on Earth in our timeline as of yet, as it simply takes time for such creatures to adapt to such sizes. And if we were to look at how long it took for life to reemerge after the dinosaurs got wiped out, then that means it has been at least 30,000 years since the current meteor destroyed our planet. But factor in the large wildlife life at this current point, then that size difference would have likely taken an additional 5 million years on top of the 30,000 years for all this to take place. Long story short, it's safe to say that these people are more in the future than they'd like to be, which means everything they've ever known has changed, and not in a good way. Back in Hana's group, they continue to follow old green shirt guy deeper and deeper into the forest, and finally into this dark tunnel. But this girl notices his hand twitch and realizes that her gut was right. Something is horribly wrong. Suddenly, his face begins exploding with worms, and the group is surrounded by a horde of praying mantises. This was all a trap. Right as all hope appears lost, old green shirt guy breaks free from his bug mind control and tells them to find another team that was put into
them animals smart. Them creatures smart.
cryosleep somewhere under Tokyo and to head to the 7 Fuji landmarks in order to survive. He then brutally barbecues himself, scaring off the giant bugs and saving this group. After mourning for the old man for about 10 seconds anime style, the group builds a new life raft and decides to head off to one of the landmarks closest to them to find more survivors and answers. Elsewhere, Natsu's group is led by Botan to find a survivor seed vault that will give them supplies and food, but suddenly they hear screams coming from nearby and end up saving more stranded survivors. This black-haired kid, pink shirt girl, and this girl who looks like she sadly got 2 meatball hair buns in
I don't trust her. In her
hair. Meatball hair girl. But they don't have time for names when drama queen Natsu discovers the most insane thing nearby and discovers that the sea around them is actually a lake. She tells Botan that the water isn't salty, meaning that if they take a boat off of this island, they may find more land and one of the seed vaults. And so the group quickly builds and sets sail off of a makeshift life raft, stopping by this piece of land when they discover a landmark in the water that tells them that they've reached Nagasaki. Botan then tells them that they're close to finding one of the 7 storage shelters spread out over Japan's several Fuji mountains. The group continues to hike mile after mile until they finally reach a dusty door, leading them into one of the 7 seed vaults. Here they find food, supplies, and everything they need to rebuild society.
You may have to rent a bank account to be able to afford Chizuru, but luckily Opera GX is 100%.
Okay, this is insane. They've just uncovered a massive seed vault that has everything they need to survive, and this vault is not unlike a real vault known around the world today as the Doomsday Vault, which is located above the Arctic Circle between Norway and the North Pole. This place houses more than 930,000 varieties of food crop, designed to save as much of the world's agricultural biodiversity on the off chance any large or small doomsday scenarios take place around the world. This means that Natsu's group has essentially found their Garden of Eden, their most important survival asset, and they should defend this asset at all costs. However, just as important as what's in front of them, what's around them also needs to be taken into account if they want to survive properly. It's noted that they traveled past Nagasaki initially and eventually arrived at Mount Fuji. This area is a sacred place that houses 33 active volcanoes and is surrounded by 5 beautiful lakes. And this is the exact reason, or at least a very likely reason, that this seed vault was placed near this mountain, as the groundwater located in these parts is suitable for drinking water and can be found in abundance. If I were these survivors, I would cut my losses and forget about anyone else that I think might be alive and start focusing on developing this place as a functioning fortress. However, badass Botan already knew about this place, and it was located most likely on purpose under
She sus, bro. You can't tell. No.
a significant landmark, this statue, which means it was meant to be discovered and won't be long before more survivors start showing up, since everyone likely got the same set of information as us. But if there is anything that we have learned from The Walking Dead and other shows like it, it's that people can be real turd blossoms during the apocalypse, which means I would start finding ways to decay and hide any of these landmarks, such as this statue. And also this seed vault door. We gotta cover that up somehow. We can begin the decaying process of the statue itself by planting seeds like the Douglas moss, which can take root within the rock and cause cracks and crevices within it. And we also should have no problem finding such seeds due to the fact that we're right next to a freaking seed vault. This in turn will eventually destroy the landmark and any indication to anyone else that there is a seed vault within this location, because this vault will no doubt cause them trouble sooner than they think. Botan pushed the group to work to rebuild society, but Aorashi says that he's going to look for his family in Tokyo in the meantime. time. Natsu decides to join him, and the two head off, traveling high and low for days. But one day during their trip, they hear a strange sound coming from the bushes. They prepare to fight another horrifying bug when suddenly long hair guy falls out. He tells them that since Botan was being too bossy, he's run away to come join them. The three then continue on their journey when they surprisingly arrive at a thriving settlement on the way. But they don't realize that this place will show them no mercy. This farmer suddenly spots them and tells them to get out of here quick. But just then, these two village lords show up, and they aren't your ordinary survivors. Natsu and her friends discover that this group is run by tyrants, having woken up 3 years earlier. These people have created this village through blood, sweat, and tears, and more blood, punishing anyone who doesn't pull their weight. Arashi says that they're just passing through on the way to Tokyo, but this
Yeah, man, time to go in after all that.
village lord guy thinks they're here to steal food, so he ties them up. However, their luck turns sweet as they're saved by this villager tan-faced guy, who helps them escape the village and onto this boat, and they continue
probably
on
wanna
with
escape
their
too.
journey. Eventually reaching Tokyo, they see the once glorious city now in complete ruins. Arashi is devastated and thinks his missing girlfriend, who wasn't that important to the story anyways, is down there, and he jumps in right into this monster's house. Suddenly, this giant fish attacks him, shocking everyone as this is the first fish they've seen so far. Prepared to die, this fish pounces right above Arashi until the creature gets killed by this ponytail guy. The group is shocked, but they get even more horrified when ponytail guy here says that he's been awake for over 15 years and that he's the only one from his group left alive. Arashi's group is the first people he's seen since then, but long hair guy over here doesn't trust him, and he wakes up the other two later to escape before he wakes up. Elsewhere, Hana's group reaches Tokyo, but they're horrified to see it in ruins, so they decide to head to Mount Fuji, desperate to find another storage shelter somewhere. Later, they finally reach another abandoned seed vault, but they discover a letter left behind by one of the other teams, telling them that whoever reads this is to come to Mount Yufu, where they've already set up another shelter, showing this group that old green shirt guy was right after all. The group then prepares to leave to find more survivors. Meanwhile, back near Tokyo, ponytail guy sits with his doggo thinking about Arashi's group, and seeing them inspires him to search for more survivors out in the world, but suddenly he hears a terrifying scream. Nearby, Hana runs for her life as she gets chased by a dinosaur. This creature gets closer and closer to her when suddenly ponytail guy whistles nearby. Then his army of trained dogs attack this beast, chasing it away for good. Hana lays in shock, and so does ponytail guy. Okay, I can't even make this stuff up. This is crazy, because ponytail guy here is more of a dog lover than Owen Wilson in that sad movie Marley and Me film. The fact is that this guy has managed to train these dogs to come at this dinosaur is next level. It's impressive, but also really weird, because while
Well, it's a lot of, he got a lot of packs though, wolf packs.
in reality,
dog packs, whatever.
the concept of dog training isn't that difficult to implement. The most difficult part that comes with canine training is the interfacing with the dog. Basically, just like kids, dogs are the same. Some learn better one way while others learn better a different way. But these puppies look to be some mix of a wolf dog, and this means that training these beasts would be an even harder thing to do than training a regular dog, because taming their wild side is something that not anybody can just pull off. This would take a massive amount of time, dedication, and skill in order to be able to pull it off effectively. And this is something that Hana could have used to help deduce just who the hell this guy is. Despite being lost and afraid, if I was Hana, I'd take careful note of how well this ponytail guy has trained his dogs, and could come to the conclusion that his innate character and personality is that of someone highly intelligent, patient, and methodical. Although this is the apocalypse, and trusting the wrong person could get you killed. But knowing these traits about this stranger ponytail guy could mean that he either could be an insanely useful ally or a dangerous pain in the ass if we
I just keep them close. Keep your friend close and your enemy closer. Just use them. That's what I do. I just use them.
were to piss him off. After saving
But
her
in the end, he got them wolves. He got them wolf dogs on him. So,
life, Hana asks Ponytail Guy to join her group. After a quick shave, he informs the group of who he has met so far, but from what he says, Hana thinks he may have run into her boyfriend, which means that he could also be alive. Yay, she has hope. Later, it starts raining, and this suddenly causes Hana to trip and fall right into this blue slime. She doesn't think anything of it, but she doesn't realize that this will cost her her life. The next day, she begins to realize that her hand has started to transform into something
that poison, ain't it?
horrifying, and notices this dinosaur outside dying from the same blue slime she fell into. Ponytail Guy doesn't see that she's been infected, and says that this unknown blue slime appears every rainfall, and since there's no cure, he says to stay away from it at all costs. This cements Hana's fate as she realizes that she's going to die soon. However, not
Unless
once
she chop off her hand, like chop her arm off, that part that already infected, chop that off, and keep it moving. That's what I do.
To be a burden to anyone. She later leaves the group behind and leaves a note saying that she's gone to look for her boyfriend. But Ponytail Guy ain't letting her go anywhere and eventually catches up with her, only to find that she's gotten even more sick. Running out of options, he prepares to put her out of her misery when he sees something insane. One of his dogs accidentally licks the blue slime, and the dog's mother then immediately dunks him into seawater, curing the puppy instantly. And this gives him an idea. Dumping her into this saltwater lake, Hana gets instantly cured, this time giving her the actual motivation to go find her boyfriend. Oh, love wins.
Oh, hey, I was gonna chop that arm off. Chop that arm off and let it go.
Overall, right. Elsewhere, Arashi's group on the run find an abandoned boat, and after seeing enough destruction and despair out on their adventure, the group decides to head back to their original group. Using this boat, once they figure out how to use it, back in Hana's team, the group continues trekking throughout the land as everything around them begins to get swallowed up by this mysterious ash, and they finally stumble onto this abandoned vault. But this place is different from any seed vault they've seen before. They don't think much of it and head inside, but this move will cost someone here their life. Suddenly, they run into members from Lord Guy's and Lord Girl's village, and they meet up with Tan-Face Guy, who mentions that the recent ash from the sky caused them to abandon their village, forcing them to take shelter in this scary place. And this group has no mercy, and later that night, Tan-Face Guy's group kidnaps Hana's team member, and the other members of Tan-Face Guy's group take Hana's boat. But Hana, turning into a full-on independent boss babe, tries to stop them, just as her group discovers this underground farm. And here she discovers this group of corpses and this diary. She reads it and discovers that this place was once an apocalypse shelter for a group, but due to a deadly virus that began spreading inside, everybody was forced to quarantine until they eventually died. But just then, at the back of the diary, Hana makes the most shocking discovery and sees her father's picture inside the diary itself. And oh, it's a crazy secret. But just then, Hana, her group, and Tan-Face Guy realize that this whole place still has the virus present, and they rush to find Lord Girl and Lord Guy's group to tell them to get the hell out of here. And everybody quickly realizes that this shelter was a death trap all along. Both groups make a run for it as Hana is reunited with her abducted friend. But as everybody leaves the vault, they run into these strange masked men, and that was their biggest mistake. The masked men ask if anyone in the group ran into the virus found down there. And Lord Girl, like a dum-dum here, says they did. Suddenly this guy—
Why wouldn't she just say no?
Takes out his piece and tries to shoot her full of lead, but Tan-Face Guy protects her, killing himself in the process, which then awards him with the title of the world's most dedicated simp. Okay, this is batshit crazy on all types of levels. The people in this vault basically began killing off people due to food shortages, and they did this by literally grounding innocent people into minced meat. But to make sure nothing went to waste, they used the minced human meat to feed the animals. And this somehow genius of an idea allowed this harmless parasite to begin infecting the animals and eventually found its way to begin infecting humans. Whoever these scientist studs are were better prepared than this group was, and it's clear from how they just reacted that they are ready to survive no matter the cost. But while their assumption is that there is no cure for this mysterious disease could seem far-fetched, in reality, their thinking is not that crazy, because this virus carried itself out in a way known as the zoonotic spillover, which is a term used to describe the process of pathogen transmission from wild animals to humans, similar to recent events. The crazy thing is that the National Library of Medicine estimates that over 60% of all emerging human infectious diseases have a zoonotic origin and have come from animal species. From HIV being introduced into the human population from non-human primates in the 1920s to the Middle East respiratory virus emerging in 2012. This type of creepy shit coming from animals first is more common than people realize. This means that this shelter, before it got destroyed, should have been way more careful due to the fact that they were sharing an enclosed space with animals to begin with, because this bunker was underground. It's safe to assume that these people would have kept the animals conducive to feeding the population in some way, from pigs to chickens and cows. But the one thing that doesn't make sense is why this bunker chose to feed their own animals human meat at all. Why would they do that? Animals, like cows in general, are herbivores, and their digestive tract wouldn't have been suitable to handle meat, let alone human meat. And over time, this act could have increased the chances of them developing horrifying horrifying diseases that could have eventually infected the human population. And one of those diseases could have been a condition known as mad cow disease. However, in a ruthless post-apocalyptic world like this one, if I was one of these scientists, I wouldn't have killed this guy since it was clearly the stupid thing to do. Instead, I would have killed everybody and taken their belongings, because even if there was food shortages, killing these survivors and eating their own flesh
And taking that stuff, yeah.
would have been foolish, since their possible exposure to the virus inside the vault could have meant that their flesh could have been contaminated. And since we don't know just what type of virus is down there, killing everybody on the spot Genghis Khan style would have been the most responsible thing to do that these scientists could have done. I approve. The masked guy says that if the virus has already gotten to them, then it's too late. So the group leaves with more questions than answers. But this world is too deadly to survive alone. So the two groups then join forces and go back to Hana's old team's campsite. But it's deserted. So Village Lord's group and Hana's group both decide to track the strange masked men that killed their teammate. Meanwhile, Natsu's group continues to learn how to sail when suddenly they spot a body floating in the water. They discover that this person is called Hibari, and she turns out to be Pink-Shirt Girl's cousin from the other team. She says that the members from Botan's group are all in grave danger. Elsewhere, this black-haired kid from Hana's team wakes up in a strange place run by the masked scientists, and this kid discovers that they're using him as a lab rat for medical experiments.
That's the first thing I'm talking about, like scientist. Oh yeah, bro, you is a lab rat, bro. They finna use so much stuff on him. A cure or whatever.
Tries to get away but gets caught. Later, Hana's group finally catches up to the mad scientists and sees them using black-haired kid as bait to lure animals. Village Lord Girl then realizes that this group of survivors are not like the rest and have developed an advanced village with advanced tech like this hang glider. Knowing they need to take this village out, Lord Village Girl sends in this person to take out the hang glider girl and to use her as bait as they plan out their attack. Later that night, we find out that this group of scientists were actually chosen and trained with prior knowledge of the world ending. They were chosen to be the leaders of this world once the apocalypse started. Meanwhile, Hana's group finally makes a plan, and Ponytail Guy creates a distraction before Hana goes in to try and save Black-Haired Kid. But on the way, she gets caught red-handed, and the scientists prepare to kill her. But then Hana's team announces to the scientists that they have one of their teammates as hostage, buying them time. But suddenly, they hear something horrifying approach them that will change everything. An army of flesh-eating bats begins swarming throughout the village, causing panic among the group. They then all head inside this house for safety as they try to stop the sea of bats from coming inside. But Hana thinks fast and throws this bait out the window, and luckily the bats follow it, saving them from being eaten alive for now. Okay, this is batshit insane. Hana's team has failed to take out these scientists, and so far everyone has been at everyone else's throat. But the fact that these hairless, horrifying creatures try to attack us is a huge sign, because in general, bats are just terrified of us and are usually incredibly docile creatures. Seriously, you can annoy the shit out of bats, and usually they're pretty tolerant. However, the fact that these bats try to attack us humans means that something is very wrong. Even infected bats carrying some sort of infection, like rabid bats as a result of rabies, are rarely aggressive towards humans. However, if a bat is sick with some sort of parasite or infection, this can cause them to behave abnormally, which can happen in a variety of ways. And to top that off, we also have to remember that these people are now in a world that is very different from the world we live in today. It is a world that has survived a massive meteor strike. Now, we don't know how much time has passed exactly since the apocalypse began, but it's very realistic to assume that all the rules have changed, that the evolved environment and strange animals could be a probable result from the nuclear mutations caused over time from the nuclear plant meltdowns, secondary to the meteor strikes. Hana's team is in Japan after all, and that was home to 54 nuclear reactors as of March 2020 due to Japan's over-reliance on nuclear energy. The meteor strikes would have likely caused massive nuclear fallout due to the destruction of Japan's nuclear reactors, causing nuclear mutations and genetic diversity in the country's natural environment. All of this can help explain why these bats are batshit crazy and nothing we've ever seen before. And this means that as opposed to killing every single survivor they see, at this point it may be better to set aside some differences and join forces for now. Because at this point, the laws of nature simply don't make sense anymore. Once the group catches their breath from the horrors, the group of scientists demand to know where their hand-gliding team member is. But nearby in this cave, Lord Village Guy is determined to not let her go, when all of a sudden the army of bats attack them too. injuring a bunch of people in the process and injuring one of Lord Village Guy's teammates. But Hand Glider Girl is too noble of heart and escapes to go get help from her team's medic. Once they fix everyone up, Hand Glider Girl mentions that the bats have been an issue for a long time, and everyone realizes that they'll need to team up to fight this bigger enemy. The now much larger team then plans out their move and begin burning all the cave entrances, and they end up smoking the bats out, just as Hand Glider Girl does what she does best: hand gliding stuff. She glides faster than Hanuman hopped up on caffeine and lures the bats away right into these hollow tree trunks, just as this guy begins banging these wooden trees, disrupting their echolocation and forcing them to come crashing down, solving their flesh-eating bat problem for now. This top scientist right here, Hair Dye Guy, then decides that Hana's group and all the other survivors are now their responsibility. And Hair Dye Guy's team then begins giving everyone jobs to help around the village. But they realize they now have one more huge problem to deal with. They need water. So Hair Dye Guy leads a part of the team to go look for water. But one of them separates from the group and ends up messing around with his wood. That was his biggest mistake. Suddenly, he gets knocked out from behind by someone and falls straight into the mud. Later, as the group stops for a break, Hana realizes that wood playing guy is missing and thinks something is wrong. But Hair Dye Guy suspiciously says that she's just being paranoid. She goes to look for him anyway when she suddenly hears some noise coming from this mud swamp. It's wood playing guy. She saves him from nearly dying, and she accuses Hair Dye Guy
Good save, bro.
of plotting his murder. But Hair Dye Guy denies it. They almost get into a huge fight when one of the scientists notices Hana's knife being the exact same one as all these scientists use. He demands to know where she got it from. She then says that it was her father's trusty knife, showing them all a picture of her old man. But this shocks everyone. Hair Dye Guy then reveals a terrifying secret. He then says that it was Hana's dad who was their supervisor back when his team was training for the apocalypse. It was Hana's dad that put this group of scientists through literal hell, killing all the candidates who didn't make it through the program, taking everything from these people, causing everyone here to hate him for it. He then says that the only reason Hana survived the apocalypse was because of her father, and a very jealous Hair Dye Guy freaks his face off. Hana calls bullshit on Hair Dye Guy and says that her dad was just a quiet government worker, not a badass mad scientist stud. Hair Dye
To her, but to the other one, yeah, he probably treated them like crazy. Come on, man.
Guy's had enough of Hana's BS and decides to reveal something even more horrifying. He says that it was Hana's dad's idea to add one member to Hair Dye Guy's group to act as a Reaper. The person chosen to be the Reaper was not told to any of them, and their sole purpose and responsibility was to test the will of these survivors. Hair Dye Guy says that no one knows who the Reaper is, and if they fail to survive properly, the Reaper will then make sure that the weakest die off. And Hair Dye Guy is salty about it as hell, and makes Hana do all sorts of hard chores as punishment since he thinks she's the Reaper, which means she must pay for what she did to him. Okay, this is bad. This is really bad, because right now what we've heard means that if this group isn't careful, if this group doesn't do everything right, this Reaper will not hesitate to make sure that we don't live to see another day. In a way, this means that everyone here will strive to pull their weight, sort of like how Village Lord Girl and Village Lord Guy ran their village through absolute tyranny. Brilliant. Now, while this might sound insane as a mini society, ruling this way does have its benefits though. As mentioned, fulfilling obligations and jobs out of fear will ensure that many do not break the status quo. And since no one knows of the Reaper's identity, this will mean that no one person will be at risk towards the general public. However, it is a double-edged sword, as no one knowing who the Reaper is will likely mean that soon the public will get too paranoid for its own good, and may even end up revolting due to an unjust, non-democratic society. This is why if I was Hana, I would be paranoid as hell about who this Reaper was. It's noted that right before Hana found Wood playing Guy, she asked the group around the campfire if they had seen him before, and at that moment there were 5 people present, assuming that no one else knew where Wood playing Guy was, since it was just these 5 members who went on this water finding mission. This means that likely one of these people here is the culprit. Ponytail Guy would have had no insidious motivations, since there would have been nothing to gain from him killing Wood playing Guy. Neither would there have been any motivation for Village Lord Girl unless it was just random. However, the people we still don't know anything about are these 3 scientists, but it would have been too obvious for Hair Dye Guy to try and pull some shit since he already was putting more attention on himself this whole time due to his whining about Hana's father. Get over it, dude. Also, him being the leader means that him disappearing for no good reason would have looked mighty suspicious as hell, don't you think? Which means if I was Hana, I would keep an eye out on this girl and this white-haired guy, as these 2 right now are our biggest suspects. Elsewhere, Arashi tries to continue sailing their boat when it finally gets stuck for good. The group then returns to land and end up coming across an old village that they don't realize belonged to Village Lord Guy and Village Lord Girl. And here Natsu discovers the note left behind from Hana to her boyfriend, who she finds out is Arashi, and she's not too happy about it. She does prepare to give Arashi the letter though, when suddenly Meatball Hair Girl and Glasses Guy show up and tell them that Botan's group is in trouble. They go to rescue them, and it is here that Natsu finally gives Arashi the letter belonging to his long-lost girlfriend, finally letting him know that she's alive. Back at Hana's team, she prepares to leave the group when she gets summoned to go on one last dangerous mission with Botan's group and the scientists to look for water deep in this terrifying cave. But that's when White-Haired Guy decides to split up with Hana and this girl, and he makes Hana rope down this cliff face. Suddenly, White-Haired Guy takes out his knife and begins cutting Hana's rope. He says that Hana's presence in the group has made their leader, Hair Dye Guy, mentally unstable, and that she must die in order for the group as a whole to survive. Hana begins freaking out, and she finds out that it was White-Haired Guy who tried to kill Wood-Playing Guy earlier. He must be the Reaper. White-Haired Guy then cuts the rope, and she falls to her death. Okay, did this not just prove my point that everyone during the apocalypse are real turd blossoms? But Hana here could have ensured that she would have been much harder to kill if she had enough foresight and common sense in the first place. She just had gotten word that someone had tried to kill Wood-Playing Guy earlier and got informed that this group of scientists had a Reaper within their group. This information alone should have made Hana way more cautious, as this means that whoever tried to kill Wood-Playing Guy wasn't some random schmuck but a well-trained killer. And even if we didn't know who the killer was this whole time, Hana already knew that this group of scientists were trained to survive, as this was their mission objective. Therefore, it would not have been crazy to assume that they would have been prepared to kill anyone who got in their way of their mission objective, especially since everyone here is a group of well-trained killers. And the fact that the scientists knew that Hana was the daughter of their instructor means that there would have been probable cause to think that her appearance within this group would have made some people like Hair Dye Guy go crazy. Therefore, she should have known that as soon as she opened her mouth about her father and saw the reaction, she was a flight
kept that quiet right now.
Risk just waiting to be taken out. And also, Hana should have known better than to just separate from her original group and to have placed her life in the hands of these well-trained killers, Reaper or not. Hana got too complacent and too boy crazy thinking about her boo, and in the end paid the ultimate price for her foolishness. Ugh, love. Disgusting. Hana wakes up somehow not dead, which is a shock. Terrified, she tries to not panic just as she hears the sound of water nearby, but she bumps into Hair Dye Guy, who looks shocked to see her. Hana tells him to not come any closer and begins freaking out and suddenly trips into this river. She screams for her life as everyone hears her and comes running to save her, but the current is too strong and she knows that her time is almost up. She yells out to her teammates that White-Haired Guy was the one who tried to kill her and Wood-Playing Guy, freaking everyone out here, including Hair Dye Guy, just as she gets sucked into this whirlpool, ending her life for good. Ponytail Guy freaks his tits off and meets up back with the group outside, where he attacks White Hair Guy, mourning the loss of one good friend and one less survivor. The group tries to not cry their faces off because they can't be wusses, and they prepare to survive in Hana's memory as they carry on their adventure in this post-apocalyptic world, unknowing of what horrors they'll soon have to face.
And if you don't want to...
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, man, you already know, man, that was nasty, so you already know, man. I don't have it at all. Link up in the description, no link comes